Hi, Lilou. How are you?
Very, very cool. Very good to speak to you in person. How
I know, it's
exciting.
great.
I'm so thrilled to be speaking to you live right now because I heard first about your work through Elena that lives in Hawaii, and she told me about this famous four-man plan, and I wanted to know all about it, being single myself, even though if I was like, well, are you sure? Is it really all about strategies? And I really want to let love flow and normal. But now that I'm in New York City on the Juicy Living tour, and this is the Sex and the City,
Yes.
I was pretty sure you lived here, but actually no, you're in LA. So we'll do this live together in September, end of September. But right now I was too excited to wait.
Good. And New York is a great place to do the four-man plan. It's perfect for it.
So tell us, what is actually, from which observation did this book started from? What did you start seeing about men and women and expectations and within your own life to want to create this book?
Well, the first thing I came to understand was that I was the problem. I had a problem with men. I had a problem with the way I related to men because time after time, everything would go wrong and I couldn't figure it out. And the only thing that all of my relationships had in common was me. And I'm a huge fan of Einstein. Actually, to be really honest, I'm a huge fan of Seinfeld. And I was watching this episode of Seinfeld, and it's the one where George is told by Jerry that he does everything wrong. You know, every decision he makes is a bad one. So why doesn't he do everything the opposite of what he thinks he should do? And so I thought to myself, you know what? Every decision that I make about men is wrong. And so I need to do exactly the opposite of what I have been doing and what I think I should do. And that's really how it started. So I took something that was really emotional and painful and chaotic, which was my love life. And I decided to make it logical and use a part of me that had strengths and was already functioning in the world. So I wanted to use my intelligence and my ability to observe things to help myself in an area that was really important to me, my love life.
So it's really for people that finally get that they're suck at love, or isn't that something that should be very normal and natural though?
You know, it should be normal and natural, but it's not something that we're taught. A lot of the relationships that we grow up with now are very dysfunctional, or they're kept behind closed doors, or they're fictionalized. Like I grew up thinking that the Brady Bunch and Three's Company were how things were, and Cinderella and all those fairy tales. I really didn't have any natural way, any way in my own life to observe something successful and how it worked on a day-to-day basis. So it wasn't natural for me. I think for some people it is, but and I think for the girls that it's not coming naturally to, they know that.
Yes.
They get to a point where they start to feel like they're missing a piece of information, or they're missing a way, or something is not fitting for them.
Yeah, very much so. So it's really becoming this international dating revolution, really. I mean, it's as big as that. You were, but even yourself, you were surprised by this. It kind
I'm still totally shocked because I didn't write it that way. I wrote it as a very personal story. I wrote it to be a one-woman show. So, and I was sort of looking at several different subjects that I could write about myself. And this was the one that everybody gravitated towards. In fact, ever since I started doing the plan back in, I think it was 1998 or 1999, it's always been a curiosity for the women around me. Like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm doing the four-man plan. At that time, there was no book. It was just me and a couple of girlfriends, just trying something different. So it was really personal. I wrote it as a show. Then the girls who were coming to the show said, we need the book. I was like, oh, I didn't know you would need a book. So I wrote a small self-published version that I would sell during my performances. And then that got picked up, and then it got translated into many languages. And, you know, now I'm coaching, thank God for Skype, I'm coaching women all over the world. It's really interesting.
And the challenges are the same all over the world.
You know, the challenges are definitely different all over the world, but the plan seems to work anyway, because the plan is about teaching women how to understand themselves in relationships, how to choose a man that is worthy, how to become worthy themselves, to have a healthy relationship instead of one sort of battle or sex fest after another, you know?
So though it's really let's get a little bit more into the principles of the four-man plan, because they are it is about dating few men at the same time though at first, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. Really, the whole time you're on the plan, you'll be dating several men. And the point of that is so that women can understand their patterns, and understand that, oh, I'm the common denominator. It's so common for us to jump from man to man, and they've got an issue and they've got a problem. If only they would fix this or change that, then we could have a nice relationship. And as women date 3 or 4 men at a time, they start to understand, oh, I have certain issues. I have things that recur again and again. And it also gives them a way of understanding the men that they're attracting at the level that they're at.
Mm-hmm. What's cool is that men obviously are hearing that right now, and our interview and the book is out, and men are reading it too, and that's okay.
Absolutely. I don't suggest that men do the four-man plan. It's designed specifically for women. But I do absolutely recommend that men understand the plan if they are dating a woman that's doing it. So there's nothing, we love men, you know, four-man planners love men so much they date them 4 at a time. We love men and we want to be close to men and we want to be fully disclosed, right? So absolutely men should know about it and how it functions, because it honors them in a lot of ways. You know,
tell us more about that part, because there is one of the founding principles is talking about truthfully and answering any question that might come up, right? This is one of the main pillars.
Yes, one of the main things is that I have women really get rid of all their expectations about men. I want them to be over 6 feet tall and rich and have this car and have this kind of education. I make them get rid of that list entirely and trade it for just 3 things. We're looking for a man that's honest, loving, and willing. And if you have those 3 in a man, then there's probably something there that you can work with. Then you're just looking for a match. You do get to a point in the plan where all the men you attract are honest, loving, and willing, and then you're just looking for a match. And the reason why you're able to attract them is because that's the way you are yourself. Mm-hmm. So, yes, those are very important principles of the plan.
And you're all about really giving also a second chance, a second date, aren't you? Even though if it seems like it's not it, but you're like, no, go to a second date.
Oh, absolutely. I've been married to my husband for 10 years, and we're madly, madly in love. You know, I'm not having been married for 10 years, but we've been together for over 10 years. And there are still times when we will go out for an evening and everything will go wrong. You know, he's forgotten his wallet, his phone. You know what I mean? Like, he's making a mess of himself while he's eating. He's like doing something that just drives me insane. And we often joke about how if that had been our first date, it might not make it to a second date. Do you know what I mean? And here he is, the man of my dreams, just having an off day where maybe I'm feeling bitchy and we're not communicating well and something about our environment is off or something. You know, I just think that this about the four-man plan is, it's a little bit scientific, and when you do any sort of scientific research, you can't go on the data of one incident or one thing. So we need to have at least 2 to understand another person a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about the scientific part, because the subtitle of the book is The Science to Romance or something like that.
Romantic science.
Romantic science. So, and you're Chinese originally, and you're saying in the book, you know, I'm good at math, so here you go. This is my equation.
Exactly. I decided to take something that I was openly good at, which was math and graphs and understanding those kinds of things. And I think a lot of women know how to read a graph and make a graph and check a pie chart and, you know what I mean, and do that. But so what the plan does is quantify men that you're seeing as different values. You put those into a graph and you change that every week as their values change. You add and subtract them and it makes it linear. It makes it something that you can follow through as a system, an application, let's say, rather than just running in circles trying to follow just your heart or your vagina, which is a lot of what women do these days.
And it doesn't turn men into a thing.
Oh God, no. I think right now, culturally, men and women are turning each other into things, and so this is actually an approach to not turn them into things and to see them as themselves. When you're not always on a date looking for a husband, this guy's got to be my husband or not my husband, is he boyfriend potential or not boyfriend potential? When you're doing that, you're judging someone through the lens of, are they good enough for you or meeting some expectation of yours, right? So when you lower that expectation to be like, he's just somebody to be in my graph, somebody to have fun and learn about, it really makes you open up and just see another human being. He doesn't have to be your husband. He can just be who he is. Mm-hmm. Instead of compared through like your criteria list, they just become who they are. And that's really, really refreshing for everyone.
Mm-hmm. And those men have become quarter man, half a man, full man. So does that make the other men kind of be used or something, no, in some ways? Because obviously there's always more of a preference, no? Or how does all this work? Like, it's so far from the French dating, we're...
Yes, French
kind of,
totally different.
I suck at it because I'm still single, for crying out loud. I mean, it's just... And I'm open, but it's so different than how we were raised, most of us.
Yes, I was shocked when it got translated into French. I really was, because I think the culture there is very different from the culture here, and I'm not exactly sure how it works there, except for, here's the thing. We're all looking to eventually end up with one man that we stay with for a very long time in a successful relationship, right? And until then, we can either delude ourselves into thinking that every man along the way is that man, which is what we do a lot, right? We meet a guy, this is the one, you go on a few dates, you have sex with him, it doesn't work out. And then you find another one, this is the one. Oh, I swear this is the one. You go on a few dates and he doesn't call back and you don't know what happened. Okay, no, I swear this is the one, right? And we drive people crazy with it. So this is like removing that delusion, saying, I'm going to go through many, many men looking for the one. Why not make it out in the open that that's what's happening, so that I'm not under some misconception that every single man I meet might be the one. Most likely they're not. Most likely they're just somebody that you're going to learn something from or enjoy for a little while, and they'll do the same for you, and then you'll move on. Because that's the reality of it. You're single, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And are you dating?
No.
But have you had that experience where
I'm kind of dating, I guess. I don't really know where I'm at. That's the thing. Right. Our relationships have become pretty complex someday.
It is, and what the 4-man plan gives you is a time that you can set aside and say, like, you know what, I'm really going to go for this. It's time for me to start dating and do that part of life, which it's not all the time. There are times when we are... with our careers or with our families or with our friends as a priority. But there are times when it creeps in as a priority, like, this is getting important to me, that I would like to spend some time with men and working on my romantic life. Mm-hmm. So if it's time for you to do that, now what? Now what are you going to do? You know what I mean? You'll probably sign up for a dating site and sort of hit and miss, see what you can do, but there's no system. And this gives you a way to say, I'm starting the 4-man plan. I'm going to do it for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and then we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. So how did you come up with that particular equation? Why 4 men, and how does it work as far as their quarter, half, or?
Well, there was a lot of experimentation. It was a lot of input from the other girls that I was working with. And we had to give them a quantity, because the guy that is like the one that you really like, but he won't commit to you, but it's still the best sex you've ever had, but you know there's no future, right?
Yeah.
Then he's probably taking up most of your time and thoughts. But then you can add like two guys that you met online that seem interesting, that you are waiting to have a date with, and the coworker that you know has a crush on you, but you really haven't given them a chance. You know what I mean? Like most people, when I start out and they say, well, I don't have any men in my graph, every time I finish talking to them, they usually have at least two or three that they're not paying attention to. Yeah.
And, okay, that's amazing. That's pretty cool.
Cool. I mean, you know, it's an amazing process to go through. It's wonderful to have a girlfriend go through it with you because then you have a way of monitoring each other that's solid. Because the downfall is when single women, their friends are single women.
Yeah.
So as successful as they might be in all other areas of life, they still don't know what they're doing in relationships. And I tell them, I said, well, if you wanted to be a millionaire and right now you're currently broke, what do you think would do you well? To get advice from people who are also broke and have always been broke? Or would you rather get advice from millionaires and work with your other broke friends to slowly do that advice until you get to where they are? You know, so that's why I say, like, single girls hang out together, have fun together, go find men together, but do not take advice from each other.
Good point.
Do you know what I mean? Because you don't know what you're doing yet. So until you feel like you have that foundation, why not have a book or a system guide you through the process with your single friends?
Tell us about the sex part, because then you have 4 men in your life, though there's only one of these men that you say have sex with, and the other can totally know about that and see your vagina as a sacred.
Well, the 4-man plan is actually quite old-fashioned. I encourage women to wait for sex. Wait as long as they can because it complicates things. You know, it makes us attached. Sex is really an important and sacred act, and it's sort of been trivialized, especially for women. We feel something that we just can't really erase. You know what I mean? It's just very hard to go backwards after you have sex. So I really encourage women to wait. But yes, absolutely, sex is designed as part of the plan. You can have sex on the plan, but I just only with one of the men. And there's a lot of ways to handle that with the other men that I go over in the book.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things. I'm trying to think of other things that I wanted to ask you. There's all kind of terms too, as part of the plan.
Yeah, you know, we try to make things easier so that they're memorable, right? So the Wait for Sex Index sort of shows you how the longer you wait to have sex with a man, the nicer he is to you, and it goes up on a little index. And then as soon as you have sex with him, that's sort of the point of diminishing returns.
Interesting. How about that?
Yeah, and I encourage women to map that out on their own to see when they had sex with a man, what was the nicest thing that they had ever done for them up to that point. And then see if after that it sort of went downhill from there. And for most women it does, especially when they have sex really early, you know, in the first couple of dates. It's really hard to renegotiate what your boundaries are at that point. And it's and it can, and I'm not saying this, of course there's no stereotypes there. There's magic in all kinds of relationships. They happen in many different ways. But for the most part, if you have sex with a man on the first date, it's very hard for him to take you seriously after that because they actually are looking for a good girl. As much as they might go after and sleep with, the women that are give it up a little easier, for long term, they generally are looking for someone who has enough self-worth to wait until they get to know somebody.
What do you find is the biggest challenge that women are facing while being on the 4-man plan?
Well, it sort of goes in order, right? The first thing is they have to wrap their brain around, like, well, there's no time. You know what I mean? And I always tell women, you know what, if you don't have time for the 4-man plan, you don't have time for a relationship yet, because it's at least 2 or 3 or 4 phone calls, several emails, 1 or 2 dates a week. If you're going to have a relationship, you need to have at least that much contact with a man, right? Mm-hmm. They take time. Yeah. And if you're saying you don't have time to date, do the 4-man plan, then you need to stretch your schedule so that you're including time for men into your schedule, or else if you don't create that space, nothing can fit inside of it. Mm-hmm. You know, so the 4-man plan, first you have to open up your mind to realize I have to make time for this. Even if I want a relationship, if I'm working 60 hours a week, nobody really wants to get into a relationship with that. You know what I mean? So it might not be time for that right away. You have to wait until you have time to grow something. Mm-hmm. So that's usually the first thing that women have a problem with. And then the second thing is I can't possibly tell a man that I'm dating other men. Yeah. Like, that's like way too hard. And really, there's a whole process called having a man, because they become a half man by knowing that they're competing, you know, being a part of the honesty. What's that?
I said, oh my goodness.
But you know, once you try it a couple of times and their reaction, and I encourage people, do it before the first date, do it on the first date, don't do it past the second date, do it right away, you know, and the men will just become so relieved and open up to you and be like, this is great, because they don't want to be that important to you after 1 or 2 dates. They have a whole life, and they want you to have a whole life that doesn't make a stranger, maybe a stranger with potential, but a stranger such a huge priority. It really makes men uncomfortable. So I have yet to have a woman report a bad reaction from telling men that they're seeing other men, as long as they do it early enough. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those are the first 2 challenges.
And it's really overall about finding lasting love. We're talking about finding real love here.
Yes, first of all, we're talking about finding yourself in the process. Yeah. And then from that, attracting someone to your true self. And that's what makes lasting love. Like scrambling around, you know, trying to find someone good enough for you, or trying to be good enough for somebody else. That's not going to really do it. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you're going to have to work that out within the beginnings of the relationship, which can make that first year total hell. Which you may or may not survive as a couple. You know, that's the reality of it.
Very cool. Is there something else, Indy, that you would like to add that is important within this conversation? I know we'll see each other again on the 20th of September in Los Angeles and do this in person. But is there a part of this one, something else that you would like to say?
Well, I do know that it's very counter to the current culture. Hopefully it will be part of the current culture very soon. But I just think that it's changes in perception that change our ability to examine and have available to us many, many more options, and to take us down a different road. So I encourage women that even if this sounds bizarre or impossible or difficult, then that might mean that they need to look into different perceptions and perspectives about what they're doing in their dating life, and see if maybe that they need to try something different if what they've been doing hasn't been working for them. So maybe it's the 4-man plan, maybe it's something else, but from what I know, this is the only dating system that's out there that's been proven to work.
Many, many successful stories. Even babies I've heard.
Oh God, I'm continually humbled when I hear news of unions and children and things that have been born, because not just that, but also women who have found themselves and become so empowered that they're doing what they need to be doing for themselves, not just within their relationship, but across the board. And that, to me, is really humbling and satisfying.
And it's all about fun.
Absolutely. I mean, if you can't, this time in your life, someday you will be married. Someday you will have this long-term monogamous relationship that you think about because you're thinking about it. But what I don't want people to gloss over is like, this is a party. This single life is such a great time. And if you're missing out on it, moping and being discouraged and being frustrated and upset, you're missing the party. Mm-hmm. So get in on the party of being a single girl, because it's going to be over in the blink of an eye. It really is, and you're going to miss it.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in Los Angeles.
Okay, can't wait.
Thank you for this fun. It was a very fun, juicy interview for sure.
Good. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about later. All right, see you later.